Ladies and gentlemen, today is a big day because finally I am able to show you some Call of Duty Vanguard multiplayer gameplay. And basically we're going to be having two different videos today. The first of which, this one, is going to be looking at all of the weapons that we got our hands on in this build of the game. Of course, there's some that we couldn't use because they weren't unlocked, and of course this isn't going to be all of the weapons that are actually launched with the game. However, we did get our hands on a good chunk of them, and I'm going to be showing you all of them, gameplay with them, kills with them, and of course what they look like in the menu as well, discussing what they are, how they have changed, and also a brief discussion of the new Gunsmith system, which is going to be there as well. Later today, we are going to dive into my opinions on the game, which are very interesting. We'll see that once we dive into that. So if you're not already subscribed and have notifications on, make sure you do so. But we have a lot of weapons to look at today, a lot of little details with these weapons. So without further ado, let's dive into it. And ladies and gentlemen, these are all of the weapons, at least so far, within Call of Duty Vanguard. So starting out with the assault rifles, one of the first ones that we have is the STG-44. This is one you probably saw some gameplay of within the alpha. This was definitely one of the most viable weapons in the beta. Fully automatic weapon, hits really hard, and this is the weapon that I definitely use the most within the beta. It's a very fast killing weapon, and I think the biggest thing is it has very low recoil. Once you get some attachments on it is when it really gets good. You get the FMJ, you can get incendiary rounds, things along those lines. Of course, I didn't have it all the way leveled up, but this is the weapon I leveled up the most. And once we look at some creative class stuff later in the video, this is probably going to be the one that you see. The second weapon that we have is the ITRA burst. This is an interesting one for a couple of reasons. First of all, it only has a 20 round magazine, and it is a 4-round burst weapon, which means with 5 shots potentially you run out of your magazine. And that's kind of what I realized. I was running out of ammo very quickly. It does pack a punch, and I didn't get to use really many attachments on it, so once you have a bigger mag, it might be way more viable. It's an interesting weapon because it falls into the assault rifle category, but in previous games it may fall into the Marksman because it is a burst rifle. But it's an interesting one. I didn't get to use it much. Packs a punch, 4-round burst. After this, we have another one you probably have seen a lot of, the BAR. So the BAR is essentially a slow firing assault rifle. You probably saw it a lot in the alpha. It hits really hard, and once you get some explosive rounds or things along those lines on the weapon, it gets really good. I didn't use it much in the beta just because I've already used it a lot, and as far as this one goes, it's just a decent weapon, slow firing, hard hitting weapon. After this, we have the NZ41. This is one that we didn't get to use because it was unlocked at level 24. We only got to play up till level 20. As far as this one goes, it says it's a heavy firing weapon with a lot of recoil and high damage. So it's good up close and hard to control at long range. Really don't know much about this one other than that, but it should be interesting and one of the more interesting assault rifles that we currently see in the game. The next weapon was my personal favorite. Now, it was locked until level 30. However, they had it on a default class, so I was able to use it. As far as this weapon goes, it is a fast firing 30-round magazine assault rifle. If you played Call of Duty World War II, this was the Volkssturmgewehr. It's very similar. It might even fire a little bit faster. Definitely my favorite weapon that I used. It was an absolute beast and killed people incredibly quickly. Moving into the SMGs, the first one that we have is the M1928, aka the Thompson. Again, a weapon that you definitely saw within the alpha. As far as this one goes, it is a fast-firing weapon, has a little bit more recoil than the other two SMGs that we're going to look at. However, I did find it a very good weapon. One thing that I noticed with this one is if you hit headshots, it makes a really big difference. Now, another good thing about this weapon is it has a 50-round magazine, which adds a lot, makes it so you have to reload less, and the mobility on it is really good as well. So definitely one of the better weapons in the game. However, I don't think it's the best SMG. We'll get to that in a second. The next SMG we have here is the Sten. If you played World War II, you'll know a lot about this one. As far as this gun goes, I just simply didn't like it. I felt like it didn't do enough damage, didn't have enough range, didn't have a fast enough fire rate. Now, being said, I didn't really get to use many attachments on it, so it's hard to tell at this point, but definitely my least favorite SMG. After this, another one that you've seen lots of is the MP40. This was definitely one of the best weapons in the beta build that I played as well. Really good fire rate, really easy to control, and personally I think that's probably the biggest thing. Also, it has good range, which with that good recoil makes it very easy to use. After this, moving into the shotguns. So the shotguns are primary weapons. The first one we have is the revolving shotgun. Now, the first thing you need to know about this is the magazines on the shotguns are incredibly small. Basically, you kill one person and you need to reload instantly, which makes using it very hard because the reload time is also very long. Now, once you get more attachments and things along those lines, of course, that is going to get better. Personally, I really didn't enjoy using using the shotguns in the beta, just because it was very hard to get multiple kills with one magazine. The second shotgun we have is the auto-loading shotgun. As far as this one goes, it honestly doesn't really feel very different from the revolving shotgun. Has a pretty good rate of fire, but again, only 5 bullets in a magazine, which means you're pretty much reloading after every kill anyway, which makes it very difficult to use. Again, will get a lot better once you put some attachments on it. So the next class of weapons we have is an interesting one to me. It is the LMGs. As far as the first one goes, we have the MG42. Of course, with this really big magazine size, and as far as the rest goes, it actually has a really good rate of fire, deals good damage, has a low recoil. The only downside is because it is an LMG, it has lower mobility. Now, why I said that these weapons are interesting is I actually enjoyed both of the LMGs that we could use within the beta and found them relatively decent. Again, if you're an SMG player, you're probably not going to like the mobility on these, but all in all, they kill pretty fast and I enjoyed using them. The second one we have is the dinner plate, aka the DP27. As far as this goes, this has been in most of the World War II games that you've probably played. It has the dinner plate on top of it, large magazine, very similar to the MG42, good recoil, good damage. It's just the mobility is a little bit less than you'd probably like. But other than that, I really like this weapon as well. The last LMG that we have is the Bren. I didn't get to use this one. As far as this one goes, it says that it has extreme damage and accuracy at long range, but high recoil. So in other words, I think it's going to be kind of like a slower firing, higher damage weapon where you have to hit all your bullets, but has a good amount of recoil. I don't know what it'll feel like because I haven't used it, but the Bren is in there nonetheless. Now, moving into the Marksman rifles, we only got one of these, and it is the M1 Grand. I didn't love this weapon. Of course, as you know, with the M1 Grand, it hits really hard, has a slow fire rate, has a good amount of recoil, and I didn't get to use any attachments on it, so that's, I think, personally why I didn't love it. But once you have more attachments, it should be a lot better. I'm also very curious to see what other weapons they put in this category, like the normal Gouver with a faster fire rate and things along those lines. It'll be interesting to see once those are implemented as well. So the final set of primary weapons that we have are the sniper rifles. The first one we have is the 3-line rifle. As far as these goes, I felt like the ADS was a little bit slow, but again, didn't have really any attachments on this. Then the rest, I would still get some hit markers, some one-hit kills. I didn't really use it enough to get a full judge on how sniper rifles would play out, but that's pretty much all I have on the 3-line rifle. The other sniper that we have, though, is the Kar 98K. If you played the Alpha, you'll know this one. It's very similar to the 3-line rifle. Really not too many huge differences whatsoever. Not much else to say about the snipers. Now, moving into secondary weapons, the first one that we have is the machine pistol. Now, as far as the machine pistols goes, I don't really like it, but again, didn't really get to use any attachments on it. Now, the problem with this is it only has a 10-round magazine, which makes getting even 2 kills with this thing rather difficult. It is possible, but it's difficult. What I will say is the mobility on the secondaries is very good, and they operate as secondaries, not necessarily as primary weapons like they have in previous games. The second one we have is the RATT. Now, the cool thing about this one is the fire rate on this thing is as fast as you can pull the trigger. So the better trigger finger you have, the faster this thing kills, which is really cool and will make it really good. Now, the downside is the base magazine's only 10 rounds, which is relatively small. But again, once you unlock some attachments, that shouldn't really be a problem. Now, quickly moving through the rest of the secondaries because we couldn't use any of these. First off, we have the 1911. This is your stereotypical World War II pistol. Should be no surprise that this one's in the game whatsoever. For launchers, we have the M1 bazooka. Now, in the description of this one, it says that it's good against vehicles, which personally, we didn't see any vehicles in the beta, so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to come into play, but it says it's good against them. The other is the Panzerschreck, and as far as this one goes, it says that it's slow to reload, but once again, good against vehicles. So again, not sure how that's going to take place, but it also says it's good at clearing out large areas. So if you're shooting this at a bomb site or something like a flag, it's a very good way to use this. And then finally, we have the FS fighting knife. This is a melee weapon. There should be no surprise that melee weapons are making a return. Pretty straightforward. You hit someone with it, they die. Now, the other thing I wanted to touch on here is attachments, gunsmith, create a class, that kind of thing. Now, as far as this goes, I don't have a ton of footage of this, unfortunately, but it is very similar to what we've seen in Black Ops Cold War and specifically Modern Warfare. In fact, I would most likely compare it to Modern Warfare. However, the first difference you're going to notice when you go into this is you can actually have 10 attachments on your weapon, which is insane, and I'm not sure how that will actually carry over into Warzone because that's currently not the way that Warzone is. It's going to be interesting to see if all of a sudden Warzone adapts that and that you can use more attachments, but there's a lot of attachments, a lot of levels to unlock, and it's going to be interesting to see how that actually comes out in the final game. And even in the beta, we should get a better idea of how this is going to work and how those attachments actually play out when we get some more time with the game. Now, of course, these aren't all of the weapons that are going to be in the final build of the game. The 2 areas where I'd expect to see quite a bit more are, first of all, SMGs. We only got to see 3 SMGs, and then marksman rifles. There's currently only 1 marksman rifle and 2 sniper rifles. So those are kind of the areas I expect to see a lot more. There's already 5 assault rifles. Maybe we get one more on that front. Maybe we get one more LMG, but they seem to be going big on the content. They've got 20 maps at launch, so you would assume they would try to be matching that up with a good amount of weapons as well. They already have a ton of attachments, so that's confirmed. It's just to see how many weapons are actually there at launch. But for now, these are all of the weapons. Let me know what you think of them down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, it's always appreciated if you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, like what you see, want to stay up to date, subscribe, notifications, all of that jazz. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
We are